In the second instruction, it says, if you were born, or if you're looking up a January or February month, use the year value of the previous year. Example, if you were born on January 26, 1949, then you would actually look up January 26, 1948 and add those numbers together. The reason, although that might sound complicated, it's a lot easier to do that than figure out all the leap years. Okay? So we skipped over a huge problem of leap years by starting our count on March 1st rather than January 1st. So February and January on this are counted as... You see, I don't care about calendars. I don't care about rules. I'll break them every time. If it'll help. And in this case, it did. We just took the Mayan calendar and stretched it over this way, and took the Gregorian calendar, stretched it over the Mayan, and now it works. Later today, we're going to do that again. I mean, that's how I came up with this. I was the inventor of this, and that's how I came up with it, and I did it again. And you guys are going to be some of the first to know about this, too. So, and whoever watches the tape. Okay, so we now have the Zolkeen and the tune. Any other questions about this right away? Is that pretty clear? I mean, I know it's different than how we do it, but it's just, well, it's mechanical, really. It just goes and runs. So what were these guys timing? Big mystery. Let's talk about it. If that looks like a pyramid to you, good. It's a 9-level pyramid. Just like that one. You guys seen Chichen Itza? Okay, it's 9 levels. All of the Mayan pyramids are either 5 or 9 levels for a very specific reason. They were ceremonial settings. And the ceremonies and rituals that were done there were done to help demonstrate to the populace the perceptions or the considerations of their civilization about the calendar or about creation. It was their cosmology, built in huge piles of stone. The Mayan calendar, in 1940 something, there was a discovery made at a place called Coba. And Coba is a city in the Yucatan. And I hope you can you focus that camera in a little, one of them, on this picture? I'll hold it as still as I can. So
if we can't, we can get it afterwards.
Okay. Got it? Do you? Thank you. This is the edge of one stone standing in Coba. Actually, it was found laying face down in the jungle. Had been there for centuries. And when they stood it up, the archaeologists did a rubbing of all the detail, all of the writing that was on it. Thank goodness they did. Because within a couple of years, most of the detail had eroded away. Madeline and I have stood right by this stone, and you can't really read it anymore. But when they first stood it up, they got good, crisp detail. And all of this writing here, these are time periods written in Mayan language. And this was the key that unlocked most of the Mayan calendar. We knew the structure of the calendar from this picture. What it says is that there are 9 different levels of creation or consciousness that exist or that will exist. Starting 16.4 billion, that's billion with a B, billion years ago. And this really threw the archaeologists off. What were little brown Indians in the jungle making pots doing, thinking about numbers of 16 billion? It just didn't make any sense to them. Because after all, they were so primitive. 16.4 billion years ago is when the Maya say this physical universe began. Well, that doesn't line up with astronomers, does it? Astronomers, some 45 years ago, 50 years ago, had it down. Somewhere between 10 and 20 billion years ago, the universe started. Then, as we got better telescopes, so we could see further and further out, it moved from 10 to 20 to, well, maybe 12 to 20. Then we put up Hubble, and it went to 14 billion years ago that the universe started. You know what? I'll bet you that within the next couple of years, they're going to find out that the Maya, some 2,500 years ago, had it right to begin with. The Big Bang happened 16.4 billion years ago. Now, this cycle has a name. It was named by Carl Kallman, not by the Maya. The Maya, although they had the pattern, never had all the facts that we're going to be talking about. Consciousness is evolving through these different stages. And they were at a particular stage that didn't have all the information we now can display. But this cycle, all the cycles actually, are named for their product, what that cycle produced. This one is called the cellular cycle. Because way at the very end of this cycle is when life started. You notice these numbers down here at the bottom? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, to each level of this consciousness, there is 7 periods of day and 6 periods of night. 7 days to each level of creation. Where have we heard this before?
The Bible.
As a matter of fact. And before the Bible was written, before it was written in Hebrew, it was actually the stories were written in Sumerian. In fact, the whole Bible is a rewrite. It's plagiarism with a little bit of inventive editing thrown in here and there. The Sumerians, the first people to write, some of the first things they wrote was that there were 7 days and 6 nights in each level of creation. So the Maya were not the only people to have this information. They were only the most recent, ancient civilization. They left the freshest tracks. Which is what Carl picked up on and then I picked up on, and here we go. Each one of the days has a particular intention, as well as each one of the nights. I didn't put the numbers into the nights, but it's just first day, first night. Second day, second night. Third day, third night. This is 13 sections, friends. 1 through 13. All of the intentions. Okay? This cycle started with the Big Bang here and went through all of these stages of consciousness. 16.4 billion years divided by 13 is 1.26 billion years to each day. And 1.26 billion years to each night. Now that's a long night. I want to make a kind of a, not a warning, but a notice to everyone. While we're talking about these huge time scales, it's very likely that you'll start feeling heavy and more or less sleepy. That's because our consciousness thinks that time is physical. So I just stacked 16 billion years on your head. Billion years ago on this planet, the first cellular life. That's what happened. So this is called the cellular cycle. We are later in today, we're going to be going through more of the detail of this. Okay, the next cycle started 820 million years ago. Again, the Maya knew how many tunes each of these cycles were, but they didn't have all the science that we now have available. This cycle is called the mammalian. The mammalian cycle, because its product was mammals. We went through the individual cell, starting to join up with other cells in cooperation for survival. Individual cells happen here, right at that line. 1.26 billion years ago. But life scientists know that 820 million years ago, individual cells started clumping together to become eventually plants early on in this cycle. And then to become crustaceans, and then to become fishes, and then to become reptiles, and then to become dinosaurs, and then to go completely extinct and leave the mammals standing 63.4 million years ago. Which just happens to be what 820 divided by 13 is. Coincidence. It's going to get a lot better. $41 million years ago, we started the next cycle. Now remember, these things are written as numbers of tunes carved in stone 2,500 years ago or so. This 41 million years ago is an approximation of how many tunes. We started the family or familiar cycle. Now this is a huge step in consciousness. 40 million years ago is when monkeys showed up. And they developed a different kind of consciousness than had ever existed before. The consciousness of family. Now, all the way up until this, we had a particular tool for survival. And that was the grouping. Individual cells grouping together into life forms, and then those life forms grouping together for survival into nests and swarms and flocks and schools and herds. But here comes another consciousness. That is the consciousness of the individual. It is that consciousness of individual that creates a family. A closer